Hey everybody, Dr. Michael Griffith from Northern Inland Chiropractic Armidale here, and this video is aimed to go through a couple of very gentle exercises to help with recovery for lumbar disc, whether that is a protrusion or indeed an annular fissure. These two exercises in particular are very handy to help combat pain and improve function and mobility on the other side of the injury. Now, the first step that we want to get into for management of disc pain when you're at home is using a technique called the Lumbar McKenzie technique or exercise. So this is looking at focal extension loading at the low back to help target disc pain. Now, in terms of the structure of the disc itself, it doesn't have a direct blood supply, and the outer third of the actual disc is the only areas that have an innervation. So the way the disc actually will get blood flow and nutrients in are two ways. Number one, an osmotic pressure. The second is movement. And this is where the Lumbar McKenzie exercise essentially uses the low back as a fulcrum to help accelerate blood flow and nutrients in and get waste products and swelling out. The time frame for that perfusion is roughly around 5 hours, but nonetheless, in about 90% of people, this is quite a comfortable and beneficial movement. People actually find they've been intuitively doing this anyway. And like anyone's had a disc injury or a back injury before knows, the last thing they want to do is sit and be static. So two ways to do this. Number one, we can have thumbs just on the very base of the low back, coming to the side now, essentially slightly pushing forward like you're pushing towards your belly button, feet about shoulder width apart, and then we're just going to gently extend backwards to whatever distance is tolerable, and hold and bring that back to neutral, and repeat. And this one we're just going to use almost like a pump style action, and if you can just aim to do this when very acute for 10 to 12 repetitions on the hour, repeat, so 10 to 12 pumps on the hour, that will start to make a massive difference. The other modification you can do is you can lean against a wall, so that's why I'm in the hallway here. Feet about 1 foot from the wall, shoulder width apart again, hands forward, head resting on the forearms, and slightly letting that pelvis rock forward to that desired level of stretch or comfort factor, and back to neutral, and repeat. So you should start to feel a slight tension building at that junction of the low back on top of the sacrum, and rocking through, and that's the one. Again, 10 to 12 repetitions on the hour when acute, and that's going to start to help accelerate healing in the injured disc. Now, the next exercise of the lumbar spine we'll get into for back endurance is the plank, or also known as the hover or bridge. So we're going to get face down, and what we're going to do is start to get in a position like so. We want to lift our pelvis up. Shoulder is going to be aimed to be in line with the hips in line with the knees, creating a plank. And we're going to hold this position, trying to build up 30 seconds up to a minute as we're going through. If that is a little bit too difficult initially, you can just come back and do that onto the knees. And this one will really need to make sure you're bracing your core like someone's going to give you a bit of a punch to the stomach as in holding through. But ultimately the goal is to build up to this position, and to add to that you can then also add side planks. And this one, what you want to be doing is lifting and elevating your hip away from the floor, arm up, and holding this one, building up to a level of around about 30 seconds is ideal, and alternate sides with this one. Now, the final part will be improving back endurance with back extension. Now, this is quite important because people have been told in the past, no doubt, that they've had a weak core, which is why they've had a lumbar injury. But it's not all about actual core strength at times. The other side of it too is there can be a problem with your lumbar pelvic rhythm. Lumbar pelvic rhythm is the activation, or the synchronized activation, of low back and glute muscles first before the hamstrings when you go to hip hinge. Sometimes when your body's recovering from an injury, your hamstrings might start to switch on too early and too much, and then this becomes a learnt pattern. Once this happens, it creates an unsteady hip hinge and over time can create strain and sprain through your low back. So this exercise will make sure you're getting the correct synchronized activation patterns of the low back muscles before the hamstrings. And it's as simple as lying face down, so you can do this after you've planked. And what we want to do through here is alternate arm and leg lifts and hold. So right arm, left leg, and vice versa, left arm, right leg. And repeating this 10 repetitions each side, 20 total. And you can keep repeating that in sets as well. Often it's a good idea to just get these done morning and evening. So you plank and then jump down and do your lumbar extension exercises straight afterwards. Easy as that. All you need is a little piece of space to the floor and you're good to go.